I'm not sure everybody would agree with you.
I'm just suggesting it. Okay, anything else on communication?
You know, the one thing I might add with our video, so that everybody is aware, we have one microphone that's gathering all of the audio. It's that right there, okay? So it works really well for basically everybody around the table. The worst audio that we get in the recordings is when folks in the back speak. And I should have mentioned this before we had a couple reports, but I think it would be helpful if we sort of tried to adapt our practice a little bit, that folks come forward just sort of to the corner of the table when you give a report or when you speak. I think that'll do a couple things for us. I think it'll keep us a little bit more in order, and I think it'll keep us cleaner audio.
In the communication, we have included a place to put email addresses.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But we do not have individual email addresses. Do we want to?
Well, I think we need to get everybody on board.
No. I mean, your individual email address as a commissioner. Do you want that in there?
Oh, no, not us. I'm talking about residents.
Oh, yeah. We say in there if you want to take part in this contact point.
Mm-hmm.
We say that
all the time.
Every time I turn around, I say that. Yeah.
Okay.
And I'll tell you, as communications goes, I said once before that I think we should go knock on doors, and I think people thought I was joking. I went and I talked to Matt Smith, Senator Smith, and he was saying that he finds that very helpful to sort of always be campaigning, that he'll go out even when he's just won his election, he'll go out and he'll knock on doors and just say to people what's going on. And I'm not past the point at this stage, now that the weather's nice, of putting on my boots and walking up and down non-Swickley Heights Manor, non-Masonic Village roads and knocking on doors and saying to people, do you have anything you'd like to say? So I don't know that I'm necessarily putting forward a motion that anybody join me or that we do it next week, but as I say with my wife, I want to give you fair warning that my crazy idea is out there and that there may come a time where I'm going to just do that.
Well, how about coffees?
Yeah. That's it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Next committee report would be planning and zoning.
There was not a planning commission meeting this month, and there may be one next month.
There may be. Okay. Tax collector.
Shall come to the corner of the table.
Please.
Oops. I have given you copies of the report. In the taxes this month, we collected $138,605.75. The earned income tax was $18,326.12. Business privilege, $5,106.71. Local service tax, $3,407.06. Property tax, $107,015.52. Delinquent real estate tax, $1,687.84. And the realty transfer, $3,062.50. And I charted it on the flow chart. Last year at this time, we had collected $600,489.70. This year, we have collected $536,047.63. Again, I believe that's reflecting the decrease in the millage. And for the first time in my tenure as tax collector, we have had a tax check returned for insufficient funds. And a copy was sent to us. It's, I won't tell you who it is, but Jordan is pursuing them to get them to take care of it. Any questions?
No.
I think I had asked the last time if you knew the projected decrease as a result of the millage decrease?
Well, at this point, it seems to be about $50,000 on the, I don't have the total tax bill. I don't get that, and I should probably pursue it more.
I mean, I believe it's 1/10, right? 5 mils to 4.5,
It was 4 to 3.5.
4 to 3.5. All right, so it's 1/8. So the budget, no, that's all right. The budget should be 7/8 of the total collected last year, I think.
I apologize, I did not
No, no.
pull that. I know, but you asked them, I should take
Yeah.
that figure.
But I think it's 7/8 what was collected last year. Now, it may go up or down based upon property values, et cetera, but good. I mean, I think you're right. The majority of the deficit, so to speak, is a result of that millage decrease.
Okay,
Any other questions?
okay, thank you. Next,
Treasurer?
you're still up.
Stay here for that. The treasurer's report this year in the PNC general fund, $471,086.11. Pliget general fund, $105,177.54. The Pliget Plus, which is their money market, $853,772.55. The liquid fuels, which is the road fund, $39,901.99. Pliget Reserve, $103,393.73. And the capital improvements, $510,573.56. And there's been no activity, no deposits, no withdrawals for any of the Pliget accounts in May. The PA Treasurer's Investments Program, $115,726.01. And our net operating funds, $1,430,36.20. And then the sewer bond fund, which we are carrying just so you can see what's happening. The purchases, the deposit in was $100,428, and the disbursement for that's interest for $208,550.01, and the balance in that account is $262,439.02. Questions?
Questions?
A question to both. Gwen, you and I had talked about the fact we have a substantial amount of money in the operating fund, and we had discussed maybe having someone come, Merrill Lynch or whatever, to discuss how we might be able to invest that other than just holding it in checking accounts. Even though interest rates are dreadfully low, when you're talking about $1.5 million, I know Swiftly Heights Manor does that, and I'd like to see that go forward. I'd like to at least investigate other opportunities to put that money someplace where it's earning something.
Sure.
I'll take suggestions of people to contact.
If you guys have people that you want me to look up.
Who's our bank, PNC?
What about, we have some in Pliget already.
I can have a Pliget person come in. I mean, I'm ready.
I would ask. I would certainly start with PNC. I know the Merrill Lynch office in Swiftly does some of that. And just compare it to the Pliget.
Okay.
So maybe 3: Pliget, PNC,
Sure.
Merrill Lynch.
Pliget does have other
Yes.
products than just
Yes.
savings accounts.
Because we're very fortunate. We're carrying a substantial balance.
Okay, next,
next, I want to correct a mistake I made. There was a planning commission meeting. There wasn't a formal application yet. It was just a pre-application conference about the same houses on Glen Mitchell. The developer came in, reduced the number of houses by one because they fit better on the lot and for the road access, but we still don't have a formal application yet. That may come next month or the month after.
This
But
is
it's still
off of
public.
Glen Mitchell?
Off of Glen Mitchell. Near where McCoy comes out.
Okay. Okay, under the finance section, there are 3 items to discuss and vote on. First, I'd like a motion to approve the May bill list in the amount of $152,635.64. Need a motion, please?
I so move.
Second.
Okay, discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. I need a motion to ratify the May prepaid bills in the amount of $11,972.84.
I move to ratify the May prepaid bills in the amount of $11,972.84.
I'll second the motion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Need a motion to ratify the May payroll transfers in the amount of $18,375.20.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Thank you. Motion carried. Aleppo Township Authority. What's,
Okay, the repaving of Glen Mitchell Road, which was proposed and reported, I think, in the last meeting, that had been completed for the agreed upon cost of $10,500. At the last meeting, Chris Smith was hired to perform the annual audit of the authority, and they are underway doing that work. The authority also authorized KLH and Dickey McCamey to continue its efforts regarding the Hill Street landslide and the actions, I think, that in court involving the property owner who allegedly caused the problem with the landslide, with his backfilling of building material on the site. The authority is awaiting and compiling expressions of interest on the matter of electronic billing from system users. I think they're going to wait another month or two to see what action is received, or what response is received. Up to now, I think there's only been much less than 100 people have indicated any interest in that. At the May meeting, the engineer was requested to study our excess sewer discharge to Swickley, which seems to be out of proportion compared to the amount of water that we're purchasing. In other words, the unaccounted for flows that are going to Swickley are much higher than we had anticipated. And he was asked to study that, and at the June meeting, he confirmed that that it definitely is inconsistent, and he reviewed all the water purchases and is further investigating the water use relative to what Aleppo pumped and compared to the metered wastewater flows. The metering of Masonic Village flows, and in addition, the calibration and condition of the Glen Mitchell and the Red Gate system flows are going to be further investigated. In addition to that, which we think is the most relevant issue, is the flow metering that's done on all the flows, and we met as recently as today with the engineer to discuss reviewing the instrumentation with the manufacturer to see what they can develop in terms of potential deviations from the proper recording of the flows that are now apparently being in excess of the water supply that we're utilizing. I didn't report on the matter of the slide that we've had contact with EQT. Actually, Mr. Lassanti has had that contact. And they're willing to pay for us to install instrumentation in the meter pit where the Westview supply is measured to determine if there's going to be a sudden peak flow that'll instantaneously warn whoever. We're not sure how that's going to work out. We're going to engage a very reputable electrical engineer whom Tony and I have worked with for many years to develop the instrumentation necessary to implement that concept. And as I said, EQT has indicated that they would pay for that, so we think we can do that project on a turnkey basis without actually taking the time to go out for bids and going through all of that procedure. We had a meeting with the bond council just a few days ago, and it was confirmed that the remaining money in the sewer construction fund will remain under control of the township. However, the authority can use these funds or request to use these funds as required for any project-related costs. On another subject, we've had a revised estimate on the water line relocation on South McKilloy Place that will be installed by the authority of about $33,000, which is somewhat a few thousand less than it was before, because they're going to install the line beyond the limits of the existing road.
I'm sorry, John, that's $33,000 for what?
To replace the water line on South McCoy Road. Now that we still can't do that work until we schedule the repaving.
I just want to point out that's material cost.
Yep.
We're going to install it. The authority is going to install it.
Yeah, right, it started,
There's no, we'll assume it was the 40. So the material cost would be like 30,000, 33,000.
that's true.
So that's the sort of, what the authority does is, any client, uses a water line, or give them extension, or repair, we ask the client to pay for the material, the authority will install it, so thereby saving the client probably 60% of the total cost.
That's been our policy on any water line, that the authority, I think, any minor line, I guess you'd say, that they would do all the labor and provide the machinery to do it. The only other comment that I had was that the authority, the township recently received a letter from Sewickley and a report on the tap fee, proposed new tap fee of around $4,000 per DE. And there, I think Tony will probably share in that opinion, that there are some issues in there that are subject to differential or difference in interpretation, but that we ought to engage some professional advice to review the calculation. Because I think going forward, particularly when you're dealing with the Masonic Village, who is the only entity that we could foresee having any significant development, at least at this point. I think we want to minimize that future tap fee as much as possible.
What was the increase? What did we pay? It's like 1,000 or 1,200?
Well, the tap fee, or the present tap fee, is around $1,200.
Right.
But as I understand, but if you multiply that out, it would be over $1 million that we'd have to pay Sewickley. Now, they agreed to $400,000 as a incentive to get our project going, I think.
The letter from Sewickley has a proposed tap fee of how much?
$4,000.
4,000 per.
In the paper.
I read about it. And when you say you think you want to get a professional advice to evaluate that proposal, who would you think about doing?
Another engineer, I would think, who's done this kind of thing. I don't have anybody in mind, maybe Tony does.
Let's face it, it's a very detailed, subjective calculation. Tap fees. There's a lot of things that can be included, a lot of things that shouldn't be included. Ecologists, odor control should be included. Based on the experience with the original tap fee, we want an expert to review the calculations. And before we agree, 4,000 is right. Anything with Sewickley we're going to review. Back to the water flow, the sewage flow that goes to Sewickley. We're convinced that those meters are not functioning correctly.
That's correct.
Okay? We're paying significantly more in rates to Sewickley than we're collecting from the whole system because of the so-called flow of those gravity meters. So what we've insisted upon is that we don't want engineer or anybody else to tell us this. We want the manufacturer to come out, evaluate that insulation, which I personally believe is incorrect. Too much losses. It's not linear flow. And we want the manufacturer to certify it's reading correct. And under all sorts of conditions, it may be reading correct under minimum flow. But Bill Davis informs me that when you put the pumps on, it's like a freight train going on there. The water's churning like that. I don't know how you can measure that. I think it's a pretty good installation. So we're gonna contest that. And we're gonna ask we're going to inform, so I think once we get the final order from the manufacturer, if we don't accept their flows, then we're going to suggest other means to determine the flow from our system. Means that are tried and true on a gravity storage. Is not the way to do it. So, you can write some letters on that, and also we're going to contest, not contest, we're going to evaluate that.
And this applies to all the other communities that are using that treatment plant.
Right, but when we met with Sewickley, we advised 3 of their borough council people that the vast majority, perhaps 90% of the future tap fees would hit only Aleppo Township. And so it's most important to us to make sure that
Compared
it's
to others.
fair. There won't be many homes built in Sewickley, if any.
Right. We have the most land, the most
And
potential.
Masonic alone, with 180 projected times 4,000, is another burr in their saddle.
We want to prevent another lawsuit by the Sonic. We want to have somebody independent look at that. Not KLH, and we want, not us, we want an independent source, recognized expert look at it.
Well, does it make sense to reach out to Masonic and have them gather input from them, or?
I've already asked Sonic who would they like to
Okay.
talk about it. Because they used somebody to rate studies here, right? For their calculations. I thought, rather than fight them,
Yeah, right. If they're the person that's most, the entity that's most likely to be influenced by this, it makes sense to me that you.
well, then, all this state of land has every becomes true. It's Aleppo, and it's Masonic. Most affected by that. So that's why that's what's happening, very critical.
Just a point about the law, it's Act 57, it clearly talks about capacity. That's the criteria for determining costs. They're eligible. And they've got costs in there that I see, replacing sidewalks and concrete, walls, and of course, Tony mentioned the odor control system. That doesn't increase capacity, it only benefits the residents that live around the treatment plant.
Good point.
So I think there is significant costs that are questionable.
Keep at it. Anything else?
No, that's all.
That's it. Any questions?
Just a quick point. I don't know exactly what kind of what direct communications John or Tony may have had with EQT people, but I just want to make it clear, I've had many conversations in the last month with their attorneys and with their legal team, internal and their outside counsel as well. And there have been various proposals floated for possible remediation of the problem involving the water line. One proposal that was floated did include the installation of what we would call an early warning or a monitoring device, which I think is what John.
What I was trying to describe.
Yeah, that John was referring to. I just want to make it clear that in my conversations, I have not yet received any commitment to pay for. It's been suggested that they would be interested in participating in some fashion. I've interpreted that to mean that they might be interested in participating financially, but we've never discussed anything more than that as a proposal. So I don't want the board to think that I've received any commitments out of EQT at this point. Another proposal that has been, Sorry, Tony.
Yeah, okay, I'm glad you clarified that. We are having the engineer give us a proposal for a turnkey project. By turnkey, that means we do the whole thing, so it'll get done real fast. Now, once I get that, I'll tell you, and you need to get the commitment letter before we finally done.
Agreed.
Right.
But I just didn't want the board to think that I had a commitment at this point on that particular item. The other thing that I wanted to point out is that item, meaning the monitoring device, was also being considered in conjunction with another idea, which our geotechnical expert came up with. And I don't know how far along he is with this concept, but his idea was he was going to ask one of his other engineers about something called sheet piling, and whether sheet piling might also afford us the ability to stabilize at least portions of the hillside, if not the whole thing. So again, that was communicated to EQT's attorneys, and they're considering that and whether or not they would be willing to participate in that financially. So these things are out there. They've been floated as ideas. EQT, their attorneys have expressed varying degrees of interest, but it's still a fluid situation in terms of negotiating.
Where we are, we're waiting for the report from the geotechnical engineer. Once we get that, we'll look at recommendations. See if the judgment, bring up to speed on that. And I'd have to see by sheet pile, the sheet pile and the sheet pile.
Might aggravate the situation.
And that's why, and I don't think he was committing himself at that point.
I want to read it first. You start piling sheet pile. I wait, I'll full judgment until we see it.
Okay. Thank you. Anything else on that subject? Okay. We'll go on to COG. UV.
There's not much to say. We're on hiatus for the summer, blessedly. We had on our last meeting we had a member of the Pennsylvania Game Commission come in. He was asked to come in at the request of the delegate from Glen Osborne, who basically was saying that they had a large problem and an influx recently with deer. And so they were looking for a way to control the deer population beyond just hunting. And what they were saying was, we can't necessarily have a whole bunch of hunting in Glen Osborne because it's a very residential community and all the communities are contiguous, so the deer population don't necessarily respect township lines. Which I understood pretty clearly as saying, hey, neighbors in Aleppo, why don't you thin out the deer population a little bit? And they were turning and looking at me and saying, do you guys have problems up there? I said, well, I think we all know to drive the speed limit in Aleppo because we know we don't want to hit any deer. But the point is well taken that they are having a problem down there, and I think I actually just passed going down Glen Mitchell Road yesterday. There were a bunch of police officers there, and that there was a deer on the side of the road that did you know, did it get hit? Did you know what happened? What's that? Yeah, right. So there's not much to say. Nothing was resolved. Glen Osborne had heard that another community, I think it was perhaps Fox Chapel, had gone through a whole bunch of red tape and had ultimately hired federal agents to come in with night vision goggles, and they baited the woods, and in 3 days they took couple hundred deer out of the woods or something crazy. And they had what sounded like a nice plan. They had systems in place to test the quality of the meat on site. So they killed the deer, they tested the quality of the meat, and then they took it and gave it to a soup kitchen downtown. And it all seemed like a great plan. It was relatively cost efficient. And Glenn Osborne was basically saying to the Game Commission, so how do we do that? And the Game Commission said, whoa. You got a lot of red tape to cut through before you're going to be getting sharpshooters in the woods.
What about birth control?
They talked about that. They talked about that. And the Game Commission was of the opinion that it was a terrible idea. It costs an extraordinary amount of money. You've got to sedate the animals, put them on a table.
Can't you just drop something into the woods that they would eat?
Every day.
It's not the way it works. It's not the way it works. They talked about. Yeah, right. Basically, that's basically what they're doing. Yeah.
Basically, they're doing surgery.
But they're out there doing.
Oral contraceptive is not effective.
Now?
I think wolves.
So.
Wolves.
Yeah.
One problem on top of it.
And I think that's basically it. That's it with COG.
I have one thing to say about COG. They started a peer training program for QuickBooks, and the COG is switching their finances from whatever it is that they use to QuickBooks, and other COG communities were eligible to sign up to get free training. So I signed up. We don't use it, but we never know, we might. And it doesn't hurt to
Good for you. Yeah.
learn that. So I signed up for that, and our kickoff meeting was today.
Good. It's a good piece of
Did
software.
that happen since our conversation? You were going to take some courses at CCAC.
Oh, that was different. That's a different thing.
Oh, good,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Matt, I have a question, and maybe to Gwen too. The primary benefit we get from the COG is collective purchasing?
Salt.
Salt, garbage.
Are there alternatives?
You can go with a state contract for salt, but you never know what that number is going to be until late. And we've always gotten a number that's either equal or slightly better than the state's price.
But it's primarily salt.
And there's a
garbage collection.
There's a dinner.
And then they negotiate the waste management contract
They
as
do.
well?
They bid it out and
Remember
collect the
the
bids
dinners.
and things like that. And there's idea sharing.
Yeah, we do share ideas.
We do during the day. I don't know about the night meetings, but during the day we get some good ideas sharing.
Well, that QuickBooks thing is a big deal.
Yeah, that is a.
I mean, if they're going to provide somebody, I mean, I used QuickBooks and I had to pay somebody, and it was quite expensive to pay an accountant to sit down with me. So,
George, there's another area that COG gets into. If you, especially when there's CDBG grant money available, they'll coordinate or they'll bid out your demolitions if you have any tear down properties, and they usually get pretty good bids in response to their demo contracts. So that's, again, just another area that they do work in.
I would certainly welcome you, George, to come to a meeting. We'd be happy to have you.
Next subject, ambulance authority.
the meeting last month had to do with budget approval. The budget was approved. Things are looking well financially. And the per capita cost, it remains the same at $8 per person in Aleppo and all of this side of the river. That's pretty much it.
Any questions on the report? It's accepted. Public Works, Tom, we got you.
Okay, we installed a drain on Bubba Road, which we had a lot of water problems with the water cheating across the road, especially in the winter time. Installed a drain there. Then we had storm cleanup a few times since last. And then I met with George Anderson from Vital Engineers, and we went over roads we're talking about paving. And I spent an afternoon going around going over items on these roads. And road jamming, we had to work on a under drain in the road. And then South Road, we had a tree come down during the storm, got up, cleaned up. Did maintenance on the backhoe, which I'm doing a lot of invoices with the machine. And then down in Rockledge, we took a pine tree out at the intersection. And we cut the branches back on Rockledge and Squiffy Ridge. And we still have a circle to do. And the week of July 14th, we plan on going throughout the township, on all the township roads and cutting trees back. So we'll be on that. And cut back the sides of the road on School Street, the overgrowth, cleaned it up. It's the guide rail that was damaged last year when a tree fell on it. And just cutting grass throughout the township. And then I talked to you a little bit, George, about Hubwall Road, which I think commissioners, you need to discuss going with that road.
I think we can discuss it. The Masonic Village has in essence asked us to abandon it. And from my review, there's no reason not to. And it's also what Public Works believes should occur.
The road is so deteriorated, it's beyond.
They want it for future development.
And they own all the properties along
They
it, right?
own all the property, so I see little reason not to just go ahead and, but we'll discuss that later.
Is that request in writing? I mean, do we have some written agreement with them that we're going to abandon this road?
We have a written request from them from about 1.5 years ago, but no.
Good enough. That's
Simple stuff. Is the remaining pine tree on Rockledge and Swiftly Ridge staying? Have you solved the vision problem?
Yeah, vision problem. Now we need to look at the one, as you come out of the circle, you either go up the hill on Swiftly Ridge Drive.
Yes.
Right by the sign there's a pine tree there.
Yeah.
I think it's gonna have to come out.
No, you did a good job. It looks good and nobody complains, so that's good. And then, what's the status of Overlook?
I don't have a date yet. They were putting out the bid. They were collecting bids. I don't have a date yet.
But does it look like numero uno?
It does. I mean, it looks like they are going to do it. And we have some preliminary estimates from Midall about what they think is going to be. They're ready to put the project out to bid. They're going to put out to bid all of the roads that we talked about, which Overlook, South McCoy, End of McCoy, School Street, Parkway, and Ingleside.
Yeah.
And they're going to put them out individually so the board is able to pick and choose which roads you want to do once the bids come in.
How do the projections compare to the budget prepared by KLH?
The projections on Overlook are right around what we thought, a little higher, but still within the range of what we had set aside. Some of the other streets are a little higher, I think, than what we thought. School Street is
It's too far out.
it's too far out there.
But they're not out for bid yet.
They're not.
These are projections.
They're projections, and he plans to run the ad in the Sewickley Herald on June 26th and in the Tribune Review possibly this Friday and then next Monday or this. So if you are inclined to look for it, the ad for the paving bids going out next week and the week after.
And then as time flies by, I see we have a draft of the audit for 214. And Gwen and I will be starting to work on a budget for 215 within months. And Tom has already expressed to me some needs that Public Works has, like a backhoe, etc. We went and talked about that, and these are just things that we're thinking about them, we're going to deal with them, and I want to say that in the very brief time that Tom has been the head of Public Works, a lot of very good things have happened.
Any other questions?
I had an email today from one of our residents asking about, again, over in the Ridge.
We are gonna be doing paving.
Okay.
We're gonna be starting a lot of small paving projects shortly throughout the township. But next week, we're gonna be installing a catch basin drain pipe on South McCoy. And then we have another pipe project to do on Ingleside. We got, I think, something like 160 feet of pipe we've got to replace, storm pipe. on Ingleside, and we're adding another catch basin, storm sewer pipe on Weber Extension, where we're gonna complete paving that short distance of road. And we're gonna be in a paving mode throughout the summer, all over the township.
They want it where?
Well, they've been asking about this for 3 months now.
I understand, we have a cycle, we're not gonna, when we get into the paving mode, we're gonna stay in paving mode. Because, I mean, once we get in asphalt, we'll stay in asphalt mode. But right now, we got trees and stuff, we plan on cutting back on all the roads. And as quick as we can, we will get to these projects. But there's other projects throughout the township that need done also.
And some of the pipe replacement stuff that Tom has to do it's on roads that we're looking at paving. So he has to get in there and replace those catch basins in that pipe before we expect the bid paving crew to come in and do it. It's stuff that has to get done first.
What about some seed? There's some areas.
We're gonna do some topsoiling and seeding areas throughout the ridge, throughout the township, areas that were damaged through the winter. We have a plan for the whole township. We haven't forgotten any place that needs attention. It's gonna be all done throughout the whole township.
You have a plan, is it a plan that I can look at, or it's just a plan in your head?
We have a plan written down where there's gonna be a week, we're gonna stay strictly on topsoiling,
Right.
seeding areas throughout the township. I mean, we're not forgetting the ridge, Rockledge. That's part of our whole plan.
Right.
We have not left it out. We will get to it as quickly as we can.
Okay.
I mean, we got a lot of projects going on right now.
I'm sure you do.
We can only get so much done.
Right.
So we have not forgotten it. We will get to it.
Okay. Thanks.
And just a little update, for the paving bids, he hopes to have, the bid opening will be on July 14th, which is the morning of the workshop day. And that'll be here in the building at 10 a.m. And then hopefully that'll give him a week to investigate the bids and make sure that they're proper bidders. And then the bids could be awarded at the July 21st meeting with the work to be completed basically by the end of October. So, and that should give Overlook enough time to finish their drainage before we schedule that. So,
Good.
So far, it seems to be moving along.
Good.
You have work to do on McCoy, South McCoy,
Yes,
as well as replacing the water line, so that the
Yeah, we're going to
coordinated.
install a catch basin and storm sewer pipe. We'll start that project, we're going to do it next week. We're going to do our part next week. So on South support.
Okay.
They hire a part-time person.
Okay. Anything else on Public Works? Solicitors report.
I have a number of matters that I'll take up with you in executive session because most of them involve pending litigation or personnel matters. So I'll address those in the executive session.
Okay, thank you. 537 plan.
No report.
No report. Okay. Unfinished business. Anybody have anything there?
Give me 1 second. Nothing.
Nothing? Okay. New business.
I have one item and it's listed as an accounting course. As part of what I was learning with our auditor, I asked if it would be beneficial to the township if I were to take basically a college level accounting course, an intro course. Because I know how to do all the things that we need to do here, but I feel like I'm very close to having a much deeper understanding of the accounting, and I was hoping that the township would allow me to take an accounting course, a semester-long accounting course at CCAC, probably in the fall, just to really strengthen my accounting knowledge beyond the stuff that I already know how to do right here.
Mm-hmm. Sounds good.
And the cost?
The cost, I looked it up, and they aren't 100% specific, but it looks like it's around $125 to $150 a credit, and it would be a 3 or 4 credit course, so around $700 with the registrations and things.
It's at night.
I would like to make a motion that we approve that expenditure on Gwen's behalf to upgrade her accounting skills.
Second.
Any further discussion? Sounds like a good idea to me. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Go for it.
Thank you.
Let's see. Action items. We have listed community picnic, floodplain ordinance, and a meeting at Masonic.
I have some things.
Comments?
Community picnic is the first one. I did send out an email, was later in the game than I had hoped to the people who had been expressed an interest in planning it. Lynn, I can't remember, I may have left you off that email about working on the community picnic concept here. If you had said that you were interested in helping with that. Okay. We haven't set a meeting yet.
I've already told Judy, I guess, that I'll talk about it.
Okay. So I got some dates, and not everyone's going to be able to attend every meeting, but I'd like to have a meeting. If we plan to do it, we need to have a meeting very soon. We can assess at that meeting whether or not it's going to be feasible to pull off something decent. We don't want to do it if it's going to be pretty weak, because we want people to come back, and we don't want to put out an inferior picnic product. So I'm going to have a meeting hopefully next week to get it started and get the ideas on the table and see what we're able to pull off.
Good, and just a really quick comment. Matt, one of the things you've talked about, door to door, at the picnic as an example, have a booth where all the commissioners are available for conversation, a specific booth. And then Gwen and I have talked about the police perhaps having an activity booth, the fire department having an activity booth, Masonic having an activity booth, Swickley Heights Manor. In other words, enlist people so that we have 6 or 7 fun things to do, a couple of food vendors, keep it simple. But really, there's not much more to a picnic than that. So we'll discuss that at the meeting. But part of the concept of the community picnic is, again, to bring the community together. And even at that sort of a function, Matt, they can sit down and talk with us. How you doing? Or we can have a dunking thing. Yeah, thanks, Tom.
Okay.
The next one was floodplain ordinance, and my update is that we're working on it. That's what we have. Harlan and I are going to be meeting next week also to go over the draft provided by the state's consultants. So we will have a draft to you at the July workshop with authorization to advertise hopefully at the July legislative meeting, and with adoption in August because it needs to be adopted by the end of September. So it's underway.
Okay. Meeting at Masonic.
Meeting at Masonic. I was asked to contact Masonic to set up one of our meetings over there in the upcoming future, one of our regular either workshop or legislative meetings. I spoke to Carrie, and she is holding 2 dates for us. However, both would require moving our meeting to a Tuesday because their Mondays are booked over there with a standing bingo game, and they did not want to move that. So if we have a meeting over there, it will require enough time to advertise it to announce that it's over there. She's holding the, for a workshop date, August 12th, but that's also the night of the authority meeting, so I didn't know if that would be a problem for anyone. So some people would be here, some people would be there. Then she's also holding a legislative date for September 16th. So I guess you guys can think about which one of those you want to do, which format you'd rather have over there, whether a workshop would be better or a legislative meeting. She's holding both of those for us, and
Right. She's holding
both dates,
August 12th.
August 12th and September 16th.
We have a comment.
That's the exact, just sitting here listening to this, that's the exact opposite of everything I've heard you guys sit here and say you're trying to do. Make it so that it's not
You mean segregation?
Masonic and the.
It would be, oh, sorry, it would be
and
open to the public.
Manor and the.
Oh, no, Judy,
No, it would be
all would be
advertised for
welcome.
everyone. It would be this meeting picked up and moved.
But that's what I'm saying, then when are you gonna pick up this meeting and move it to the Manor, and then pick up this meeting and move it to the public, so that all three distinct areas that you're trying to get,
Public will be invited.
well, yeah, they're invited here on neutral ground.
Yeah, Judy, there is a perception. I mean, I'm sure that some people will
And this is
perceive
meeting,
that's,
that's what I'm saying.
but on the other hand, Masonic has an accommodation. Sookley Heights Manor does not. We don't have a building where we can hold a meeting. And number two, there is a mobility problem. And a lot of people in Aleppo that live in Masonic would have a more difficult time coming here than you and I. I understand the possible perception.
We've had Aleppo meetings there in the past, several of them.
I know.
And I don't see that, I never heard any reaction.
Well, my comment is, if they can't cancel their bingo meeting, I'm not coming on Tuesday. It can't be too important that we should change our meeting date.
Few of us may be shocked, you realize.
But, well, that's
You're
it.
right, Joanne, it can be moved some.
I'm serious about that.
Well, there's,
If they want a meeting and our meetings are Mondays, they'll have to accommodate it on a Monday.
Gwen, did they,
I think we should.
what rooms were they talking, because there's a bunch.
So the large assembly room, I don't know what it's called, but the large assembly room, it's right near the executive director's office.
Yeah, but there's another big meeting room up here in the nursing area.
She talked about having it down there in the main assembly room.
Okay, well, let me take the bull by the horns, and I'm going to make a motion, and if the motion fails, the motion fails. And I move that we schedule our September meeting for September 16th, 2014 at Masonic Village.
What day is that?
That's a Tuesday.
Before you vote on that, do I understand that that is one of our regular meetings?
That is a regular meeting.
Okay. One of the things that you probably need to be aware of is, I think at the beginning of the year, we're required under the township code to advertise when our meetings are
So we would
regular.
have to advertise that this was changed.
That this was a special, being convened as a special meeting, because otherwise, you've already told people at the beginning of the year that these meetings are going to be held here. So you would have to my comment would be you'd have to re-advertise.
And to some extent, I think a special meeting would be, that terminology would be appropriate, because I'm not sure we want to go through all the reports necessarily. It might have a different agenda.
So would we have our regular meeting that night
No,
before?
I disagree.
And then
Do you think just a regular meeting?
Regular meeting.
Lay it all out.
So now you're not only gonna move the meeting, you're gonna change the agenda to the meeting to meet with the Masonic.
No.
No.
Wow.
No, that's not what my motion is. My motion is that we move our September meeting from the regularly scheduled date of September 15th to September 16th. We have it at Masonic Village, and we advertise it as such.
Well, if it's not on your regular meeting night, by definition, it's a special meeting.
That's fine. Then it can be a special meeting, but we're going to have our regular agenda there.
Motion to move the September meeting from the 15th to the 16th, and it will serve as our September legislative meeting and will be advertised as a special meeting.
That's correct.
At the Masonic Village.
At Masonic.
That's your motion.
That's my motion.
I second. I second.
Any further discussion?
Can't you try to make it on Monday? Get them to switch to the Monday?
I could ask again. I mean, this was just a preliminary conversation. I could ask again.
If that's going to be a problem.
Glad to go back to her and say whatever.
At least try.
Why not?
Well, where does that leave the motion?
I'm not withdrawing the motion, so let's vote on the motion.
Okay, all in favor of the motion as stated?
Aye.
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 No.
I'll say aye.
Motion carries.
So I'll do it. So that'll be the meeting.
But you can still try to switch it, correct? Matt? She can still go for a Monday.
Sure, I mean,
She can still go for a Monday.
But what I don't want us to do is we're in June, we're talking about September. If we wait until July, we're just gonna keep kicking the can down the road. So
No, we're in for the 16th.
the 16th.
I was just thinking, just talking out loud, I was thinking about the alternate site over there. There is another big meeting room, but it's up, always say up on the hill. That would be more inconvenient for the majority of the people who you would expect could attend.
Parking's terrible.
Parking's terrible, yeah. So, forget it.
I still think that perhaps we could have it in a social room. How many people do you think will come?
Depends upon whether you have cookies.
Yeah.
Donuts.
For bingo.
All right. It's passed.
I mean,
It's
you know,
passed, okay. No,
And if it can be moved, do you want it moved?
if they would accept moving the bingo.
Well, let me see what I can do.
If the bingo down there for.
And then on another subject, if we're done with this one, I just wanted to tell you, I handed out the draft of the audit this evening. I got it this afternoon from Mark Turnley. He's planning to be here next month at the workshop to present and answer questions, but he wanted you to have it in advance so you're prepared with questions.
Good.
Citizen participation. I would ask anyone who wishes to speak to stand, give their name and address.
Charlotte Pierce, Masonic Village, and Matt, I want you to know that I have had more comments on the taping of the meeting and the way you are presenting it by segment, so that they don't have to sit and listen to the whole, you know, and I've had lots of comments, and people are really enjoying the fact that they can hear and know what we're doing. So thank you.
Thank you for saying that. I've gotten lots of nice comments as well. Thank you.
Charlotte's on the Residents Association board, so she gets that feedback.
Get a lot of it.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. Shall we'd be going into executive session at this point.